Okay, I cleaned up the main drive shaft. This is the main drive shaft that runs. This has the pinion gear goes on this end, and it's down inside the gearbox. And then this end goes up through the head unit, and this pulley actually goes on it. And there's a set screw in the pulley that sits in this hole right here, holds that on there. Now, it's funny because the advertisement, a lot of the advertisements that I've seen for this drill press, they were basically bragging about the fact that they used a lot of ball bearings in this drill press. And a matter of fact, more than one advertisement mentioned specifically 17 ball bearings. So I was thinking about it today, and I was counting, and I was like, oh, that's kind of interesting. Because we know that this pulley, when I took it out, had that big bearing on it, which is, this is the old one here. This big sucker was on this. Okay, and then on the other end of it, it was down inside that assembly that actually was that ball bearing assembly, was that the pieces were all separate. So I had the balls and the inner race and the two halves of an outer race deal. So I guess you could call that ball bearings number 1 and 2. And then we know each one of these rollers, the tensioning roller and the fixed roller, have 2. So that's 4, and the other roller is 6. That's 6 bearings, right? I know the main gearbox that we were talking about, that this unit here goes in. Okay, we know that that has 7, 8, and then there's one in the actual gearbox housing outboard here, that's 9. The end of the shaft goes through here, but it's actually, there's no bearing or anything in it, not even a bushing. So that's not really meant to be a primary bearing surface. Bearing as in placing force or supporting. Alright, so we had 2, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9. So there's 9 bearings there. If we count the thrust bearing that I replaced on the bottom of the tensioning arm, okay, so if we count this, this was a ball bearing originally, and it's a ball bearing again with the new one, the one I pressed in here. Okay, that's 10, right? 2, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So the question is, where are the other 7 bearings? Now, the other thing that surprises me is they go through all this trouble having all these ball bearings in this thing, and yet this pulley on this main drive shaft here, okay, at the bottom, it's actually not supported by any bearing whatsoever. In other words, let me show you where that goes. So that shaft is a 1 inch, exactly 1 inch. It's a 1 inch shaft. So much for your metric. All metric bearings, and then they stick a 1 inch shaft in here. And the 1 inch shaft comes up from the gearbox, pretending that this is up, you know, this would be up high. It comes from the gearbox down below, where there's a bearing that supports it, and it comes up through this hole right here. But you can see that it's practically lost in that hole. By design, it's probably not going to contact this surface at all. So what ends up happening is it passes through this opening, okay, and then the pulley sits here, and then it's supported at the top by this cap assembly. This cap assembly goes in that top part there, and then that shaft goes up into this, which is, it's a bearing, but it's one of these solid type bearings with a groove in it, you know, like an oil light bearing almost, and that's all there is to it. And I can see the grooves are heavily clogged with grease. So somebody took it upon themselves, probably took this off, loaded this with grease and stuck it back on there and thought, hey, that's a good idea. But the purpose of those grooves is actually for the oil to migrate along the grooves and continue to lubricate this surface. And I have a sneaking suspicion that this dirt-filled little tiny hole right here, probably, I can actually see a little bit of light coming through it. That little hole right there, that's your oiling hole. So, probably supposed to use a precision oiler and squirt oil down in there from time to time to keep this bearing happy. Well, my point is, why the heck didn't they just have another cup, you know, cast? Why didn't that casting have another cup like on the other side there, you know, that a bearing could be pressed into and support that, you know? Could have had a ball bearing on the top there. Instead they got this deal. And I'll tell you right now, I haven't tried it, but I'd be willing to bet it's sloppy. Yeah, you think it might be a little bit of excessive play in that? So we're going to take this out. And I cleaned the shaft up really nice, because I got tired of every time that I went to pick it up, my hands got filthy again. And I'm going to be working on fussing with getting that into position and everything at some point. And I'm going to really come to appreciate the fact that I don't have to get filthy again. But that's that comes with the territory. That's from handling this thing. So I was looking at this thing, and it appears to me, let me keep those out. It appears to me that there's a screw right here, and it's the only screw I see. So being that this is a blind hole, I was worried about how to get this out. But now that I see the screw here, methinks that that might not be a very tight fit in there after all, although it's been in there so long. I mean, it's been in there a long time. Alright, I see there is a little gap down at the end there, so I think I know what to do. Well, I thought I had it. The estate sale, one of the finds was this little seal puller. And I thought, oh, that's what I need. The idea being is this is one size smaller, it would probably fit right down in there and get underneath that lip and allow me to pry that up. But it's not. And that's all fine and dandy that there was a set screw in there, but that's in there tighter than I originally thought. I wish I had the video running when I did that, but just for kicks I grabbed this lip with these duckbill pliers and just saw if I could turn it and could see it would twist, and then it popped out. And lo and behold, there's an O-ring here on this thing. This is going to be a real challenge for the guys at Bearing Specialty, I think. Of course, I said that about some of the other stuff and they got it no problem. Well, I guess if those parts, so I guess while those parts are enjoying a nice soak in the 3M foaming engine degreaser, it's just easier to hit it with that, let it soak and rinse it off, than it is to go through the trouble of running it in the parts washer and then still having to clean it afterwards. So this, let's see, this had a washer here. Oh yeah, put it aside so I wouldn't lose it. Alright, so that was just a matter of screwing in that washer and screw in the bottom, and then you get this cap acts as a retainer. I don't need to lubricate that because that shaft isn't what actually spins. That shaft is stationary, and the roller actually runs on the ball bearings. I didn't clean these screws. This paint's dry, but it's not really fully cured for the high humidity we've got going. So I'm being careful here because if I slip one slip, and I'm going to put a big gouge in the paint job fairly easily. It's just the nature of the beast. Alright, let's see if this one sounds as good as the other one. Sounds good. Something's wrong though. Tell you why. Because you see how I can just do that, it kind of comes to a stop. Now, check this out. This is the same type of roller on the same type of bearings. So, something's not kosher. Well, I tell you what, I noticed that these bearings don't seem to be seating all the way in. And what I didn't notice before, and I just noticed now, is that there is a metal ring in there, a clip. It looks like it's maybe snapped into a groove. I mean, actually not even really. I mean, it just sits in there. It acts as a spacer. That's what it's doing. Check this out. So, of course, with this spacer out, this bearing probably goes all the way down. And what I think has happened here is, remember when I said that these two rollers were absolutely identical? I think they are absolutely identical, except I think that this roller had these little spacers in there because there's one on each end. And I bet you the one I put on that thing, already installed, doesn't have them. And the only way to find out is to take it all apart. Alrighty, I'll just loosen this up. It should pop right out. No ring. No ring. Lamont, you dummy! You big dummy! That's what I did. Alright. So, let's take the one with no rings, put that on the tensioner, take the one with the rings, and put it on the static roller. I'm calling it the static roller. Is that an oxymoron? Static roller? Yep, that sticks up just proud. And that's going to be by design because I did not put those clips in there after the fact. They were in there. They were in there, I tell you. I don't know if you can see that, but that sticks up about the thickness of the clip. Well, I tighten this up, tighten these nuts, and guess what happens? Seizes right up. Like the brakes are on. Son of a gun. Look at that. Mr. Miyagi would be proud. Normally, I can never seem to swat a fly. Maybe I bored him into submission. Maybe he committed Harry Carey. I guess I could just preload this to point well. Heck, that's pretty loose right there and it's not doing anything. Maybe that's what it is. Maybe you gotta... So I got no play going in and out this way, so there's no reason why I can't leave these nuts looser like I just did. Maybe that's the whole deal. There is one other thing. Could double check. Still have my original bearings. Tell you what, if anything, these bearings here are measuring 5 thousandths shorter than the old ones. Yeah, this is 435 thousandths. These 430 thousandths. So the new bearings being too tall is certainly not the answer. Alright, let's see. That's pretty good, right? Why don't I do this? Why don't I loosen it to the point where I start to see a little bit of play side to side, and then snug it up so that I take the play out. I mean, it seems like the looser I loosen that, the better that's getting. Well, as long as these big flat nut sections here aren't touching the outer race, then that's why it was locking up. So I'm good with that. If you guys are. All right, and then we'll take this roller without the clips, and we'll put the new bearings in that one and see what happens there. All right, I just reinstalled that roller over there, and it's free as a bird.